A few videos ago, I found that the table I made for this radial arm saw was not flat, and I said that I was going to make a new one and get it right. Well, here's the thing. I never really thought of this table as my permanent table anyway. I don't need the temporary table to be perfect, because although I don't mind making 2 tables, I'd kind of like to avoid making 3. So I decided I should at least try to fix the warp in the table that I made by placing a piece of wood under the center and then weights on each side. And in general, this effort was reasonably successful. It is not perfect, but it is much better than it was. Once I got the table installed and checked everything with a dial indicator, it's actually pretty close. So I'm going to proceed with the table I had already made. So after putting the saw back together and putting a blade on the arbor, is the blade square to the table? No, it is not. Turns out that fixing the blade square to the table is fairly simple and is directly related to how the motor was mounted in here when I put things back together. It's just a matter of loosening things back up and tilting the motor so it's flush with the square. I'm checking to see if the saw travel is square with the fence as indicated by the manual. They actually suggest using a steel square. I don't have a steel square that I trust, but I do trust that this piece of plywood is square. So I've decided to use that instead. And I can tell that it is not right because it gets hung up when I pull it down. In order to get the saw travel parallel to the fence, I'm going to need to make some of the adjustments I mentioned while assembling the saw, loosening these screws and adjusting these probably as well. I'm installing a 1/4 inch MDF sacrificial top on the front table. I've decided to just try attaching this with little 18 gauge brass nails. My understanding is that you want to go with brass or aluminum in case the blade hits it. Some people use some glue as well. I may need to experiment with that, but let's just see how this goes. It's time for the first test. All I'm going to do here is cut through the fence. I've got the blade lowered so it's barely not touching the back tables, which do not have a sacrificial top. So it should be cutting just barely into the sacrificial top of the front table. Okay, so the cuts look fine, but when I tried to push the carriage back, I got some resistance, so I stopped. It looks like the lower blade guard is interfering. Yeah, it is. Not sure why it's not just sliding up. It seems like it should be. Not entirely successful and not entirely a failure. So I see a number of people online using a radial arm saw without that lower leaf guard. And I also see a number of people claiming that the lower leaf guard in some cases causes more problems than adding safety. So I'm going to try a cut, just a simple cross cut of a piece of plywood with the lower leaf guard removed in the hope that I can get the forward and backward to happen without the lower leaf guard blocking things. Well, the board got cut and my fingers didn't. Can't say I'm happy with the squareness of this crosscut. I'm gonna need to go back and tweak some adjustments here. In any case, I think the saw is more or less operational. I'm gonna probably be trying to use it for a little project and see how it goes.